Hi, Carm here. In just a few bits, you'll hear some great stories and moments that will inspire you on your quest to find the new you. Carlo Sabucco tells a very personal story about his reinvention. You'll be impacted. Stay here. Here's a taste.
You know, I have no problem telling people I've hit rock bottom some days in this business. My peers know some pretty bad secrets about me operating my company. You got to open up and say it. And I think when it comes to some other shop owners, they've got to really, truly put their ego aside and ask for help. If not, again, Greenwood says it, is a CEO mindset. A CEO does what's necessary. We have to put a business hat on too. And if that embarrassed shop owner refuses to ask, then he's set his own path.
Welcome, aftermarketers, to Remarkable Results Radio. Listen to learn just one thing from today's episode on your journey to remarkable results. Hey, Carm Capriato here, and welcome. With me is Carlo Sabucco from Sils Complete Auto Center, a successful 8-bay shop on the east side of Oakville, Ontario. Carlo tells a very personal story about his romance to sell his shop. He was close, and he said no. Hey, thanks to Federal Mogul's Garage Gurus for supporting Remarkable Results Radio. If you can't make it to a hands-on training session, Garage Gurus Online provides you with 24/7 access to the high-quality training you need to succeed, online, on-site, and on demand. Find out more at fmgaragegurus.com. Hey, have you had a chance to check out the monthly archive page on the website? Well, you'll like how you can filter through all the episodes to find a special area of interest. Check it out. And another new website feature is a compilation of my special Carmcasts. This is a special one-on-one, me talking to you about stuff. Hey, if you don't catch them live on Facebook, you can find them on the Carmcast page on the website, remarkableresults.biz. Again, in December 2018, I'm giving away a Podcast Collector's Coffee Mug and Mouse Pad. All you have to do is listen for the December password in this episode and enter to win at remarkableresults.biz/swag. We picked 3 winners in November 2018, so get on board this month. Hey, now for a special treat, an interview with Carlo Sabucco. Carlo offers one of the most transparent interviews I've ever done on the podcast. He shares his romance to sell his business, and then he said no. That experience rejuvenated him. Yeah, and it allowed him to reinvent his mission and vision about his business, himself, and the industry. His vision now is to help the service professionals to succeed their business while building a group of independent shops that are partners in an ownership group, a corporation-type group that will leverage their businesses. He knows that disruption will be a large part of the aftermarket in our future. One of Carlo's personal disruptors in his business in 2019 is to take his entire staff to Vision KC. He knows that the future will be shaped by what we do today. Too many shop owners ask for help, but never implement, he says. He says they'll be left behind. Hey, a very personal interview from Carlo Sabucco, and also find his bio, links to his previous interviews, and the episode's talking points at remarkableresults.biz/E388. Listen to learn just one thing, and let me say this. This interview will be an important part of your leadership development. Enjoy. Hey, a warm welcome to Carlo Sabucco from Sils Complete Auto Care Center in Oakville, Canada.
Hi, Carm. How are you?
Hey, Carlo. I've got a lot of listeners in Canada.
We've got a lot of people that are listening to your podcast in Canada.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. You were on with us when we did this great episode when your really good friend had a heart attack and 3 of you guys came to his rescue. That was just what a fabulous episode that was.
Yeah, it's surprisingly how fast. It's now a year since that opportunity came my way. And I say opportunity for me, not really an opportunity for that owner, but it was an opportunity for me that leads into today's conversation and stuff like that. So it definitely surprising how fast time flies.
So you're here because you decided to cross the line, an important line in your life and in your business, and re-engineer the business.
Yep. Yeah, I'm 43. This is a family business, but probably when I hit 40, I sort of took the first jump and said, hey, we've got to move to another shop, a bigger shop. And a lot of, we talk about transformation. A lot of transformation comes by the people who are around us and who influence us. And and like we were just sort of talking earlier, if I look at the last 6 months of my company, a lot of it's come, like we were saying, it's because I've had the opportunity now to hear a lot of people on your podcasts, whether it be Bob Greenwood or Frank or some of the technician calls, people talking about change. The podcast is a really big driving factor in why I've started to take on a transformation, not just a little change, but a long-term change in mindset. That's all part of it. So, when I was 40, it started to make the change of a physical building. And in 2018, we started making a lot of bigger changes in the company.
Thank you so much for the great compliments. You're not the only one who has told me this. Obviously, we're having a huge impact. I was in Las Vegas, and Tara Topol come up to me and said, we were really struggling, and I discovered the podcast, and not only did we turn ourselves around personally, but we turned the business around, and of course, the obligatory selfie and the Allocates, and it makes me feel so incredibly humbled that I've been able to assemble the people, pay it forward with their wisdom that helps people in the industry. So thank you for confirming that I continue to get up every day and work my butt off to do this and connect people and get people to share their wisdom. So 2018, you worked on the building, and then in 2018, big monumental change.
Inevitably, where the flip of the switch started coming from, it came from Mark's heart attack.
That was an eye-opener for you, huh?
Yeah, that was an eye-opener because I think I took it as business owner. I'm an old school, put your nose down, grind and give it. And I think it was an eye-opening experience to, is the system still working? Is my business going to run? And personally, where do I want to go? So coming back from Mark's shop, I came back to my business and started realizing, where do I want to be? Where am I at? And I realized I achieved all the goals and the visions that I had set 10 years ago, and I didn't have them again. So in beginning of this year, we started setting down the big rocks. I talked about in several podcasts. Where do we want to be in the next 3 to 5 years, and what decisions do I need to make? And those decisions led to, okay, so what are the things that I got to go through and do? When we brought this topic up, I said, transformation. I looked up online to find out, see what is exactly what transformation defines. And I looked it up, and it says, involves making fundamental changes in how a business is conducted in order to cope with the shifts in the market environment. Isn't that what our industry is going through? A ton of shifts.
That's like the $100 definition right there.
And then I started looking at where do we want to be? And so, 2018 is if you want to call it transformation. Me personally, that's where it started from. Where do I want my personal life to be? Where does the company need to be? Am I aligning myself with the right people in my company? And am I aligning myself with the right people around me to grow the company? So that's sort of where I started the year off. And then there's been a lot of things that have happened this year that have triggered change to happen.
So many people have goals, or at least they have the greatest intentions in the world to set goals. What was the secret sauce, if you will, that got the goals from your head to paper to action?
For most of this 2018, we were in a private venture capital sale of the company. So a company out there was looking to buy out a lot of businesses, and we were one of them. That was the trigger. I spent a good part of 6 months negotiating with them. I got to see inside how a corporation runs, and a very outside the box mentality corporation growing in our business, in our industry. I got to meet the higher level people. I got to see how they think. And I say to my peers, the 4-wall, one-man operation, a small business owner is going to struggle in the next 5 to 10 years. They're going to struggle because the corporations have a lot of things in their filing cabinet of tools to beat us. And that was the eye-opening experience that my private sale didn't go through for a number of reasons, but I was extremely excited to get bought out by them.
Oh.
Yeah, I was excited. Yes. I was like a 5-year-old on a Disney trip. I really looked forward to getting bought out.
Boy, I was thinking that you just decided you learned so much that you backed off so that you could make some changes and then go back at it again someday.
Quite opposite. I know my peers in my group, my 20 group, they all thought I was going to jump, and the potential of what a corporation can do if they have the right systems in place in our industry, are unbelievable.
So you got inside of this, and did you realize that they were really, really good, or they needed to have their systems, processes had to have work done on them?
Their systems and processes needed work. But when you look at leadership and vision and mission and people follow it, it's impressive what they can do when they put their mind to it.
So what you're saying is some of these really big chains, they're this far away from really being great. They just almost can't seem to get out of their own way. They may have the leadership, but they may not have the processes and systems in place to make it right.
Yeah, that's exactly it. There's still, this particular one was a new growth company. It was a startup. But the leadership coming from the CEO was impressive, how he thought outside the box, not in our industry. He didn't come from our industry. And it was impressive to see where he wanted the direction of it to go. And I would always say, you can't do that. That's not going to happen. And he made it happen. So that was a changing point where I realized that, and you listen to all your podcasts, we talk about change, we talk about the industry. I think there is a lot of change coming. And I think you've got to transform your business and be outside the box. Okay, so refreshing to hear you say all of this. I interviewed Steve Miller. He wrote the book Uncopyable. You'll probably remember hearing that. And, he's got the book's fabulous. Of course, we couldn't do justice to the book in a 40-minute podcast. He talked about break the box. He talked about going outside of our industry to observe and to look and to find ideas that are working in other places and to bring them inside. And he knows the aftermarket. And what's so interesting is we can't put blinders on. We can't live in a tiny world. We have to, open our paradigms up a little bit. And that happened to you when you saw this company that wasn't an automotive aftermarket company bringing fresh ideas on how to do things. So the deal didn't happen, but it re-energized you. After the deal, I'd pretty much gotten to a point where I was call it depressed, sort of July, August, depressed, going, where am I at? Where am I going?
Oh, you were counting on this so much that you crashed.
Yeah, you put so much thought, new thought, like I could do this and you could do this, and look at all this.
Wait a minute, were you going to be part of that company?
Yes, I was.
Oh.
I was gonna be brought into their company. Mm-hmm. So the excitement, like I said, it's 5-year-old in Disneyland excitement, because the potential. And why does it not happen? Again, it always comes down to sometimes money. One of your podcasts talked about, the owner thinks his company is worth X, and in reality, it's worth Y. And that's an eye-opening experience when a company wants to get bought out. When you start doing evaluations, you go, okay. Maybe I have to sort of rethink this. But at the end of the day, I made certain decisions, and I think those came down to, at 43, I still got a lot of years that I can do this, and I think I can challenge the outside the box mindset of this industry. But that was the sort of the tipping point. I went off to a automotive conference overseas, and once I got back from it, that was where I sort of started saying, okay, we need to start making a lot of changes, and sort of changing which way we're going to go. Because when I was at the conference, I only asked one question, really, when I was socializing with people: where do you see yourself within 3 to 5 years? And the average answer I got was, I'm going to sell my business and be a coach. Wow. I said to myself, I'm talking with a room full of 50-year-old plus owners, successful, and everybody wants to sell it and be a coach. So who wants to stay in this industry? So I thought of it as an opportunity when I got back, going, yeah, we have a age generation that's changing. And I thought maybe there's going to be an opportunity that if I transform the company in 5 years, I could purchase other ones that are wanting to bail because they didn't plan for it. Or maybe there's going to be greater opportunities out there in the market because there's going to be a lot of guys leaving the industry.
I'm talking with Anthony Frohine, a technical product specialist with Federal Mogul Motor Parts. Anthony, when you're in a shop, are you talking tech as well as product?
Whenever I do a physical training, there is product incorporated part of the whole training overall, but it's to maximize the time, whether it's diagnostics, whether it's inspection, whether it's installation. So that way they understand that, hey, by skipping that extra 20 seconds by putting on this set of brake pads and not replacing the hardware, hey, this might be the reason why that I'm getting comebacks. And usually, being a ex-shop owner, I understand that the first time you get paid, the second time's free.
And so are the techs really starving for this information?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of times you have, we live in an industry where I like to say they cut the roast in half and they don't understand why, but they do it just because they've always been doing that type of an industry. So, to break it through that, they've been doing something for 30 years and they see as they haven't been doing anything wrong, but it starts to open up their eyes to, hey, you know what? It wasn't necessarily wrong, but there is a better way.
So you're really talking to me about an aha moment.
Exactly.
And tell me, when you see that happening more and more from technicians that you're out with, how does it make you feel?
Oh, it's awesome. You really feel like you're giving back to the community overall. But ultimately, the way I tell them, I look at every single vehicle that I worked on prior to, or I had my customer, just like I put my family in that vehicle. I look at it as I'm keeping everybody else that much safer because the job's getting done correctly.
Federal Mogul Motor Parts' Garage Gurus is your go-to source for the vehicle training, technology, and answers you need to keep your next job on track. On-site, online, or on demand, the Gurus are here to help keep your business and your career on the road to success. Visit fmgarageguru.com. Hey, Carm here. In our December swag contest, the password is wisdom. Go to remarkableresults.biz/swag, S-W-A-G. Use the password wisdom and enter to win a collector's coffee mug and a mouse pad. The drawing will happen first week, January 2019. Go back to a question that I asked you a bit ago. You went from knowing that you had to do something, from the doing to the goal to the get it done stage. What was the hardest part for you to lift that hammer and put the first nail in your best idea?
One of Bob Greenwood's classes, and I haven't trained with him for a while. And Bob's great. He's been around for a long time. He has a lot of skill. I admire the gentleman for trying to change our industry. He said you need to have a CEO mindset. And I think that's what was started, putting the nail in the coffin. That's when I hired and brought in a CEO coach. Specifically, he works with the 3 C's, COOs, CFOs, and CEOs. And I brought that individual in to help me sort of get more focused on what a CEO should do in a company, not just an owner. So it's been an eye-opening experience. We talk about leadership quite a bit, and started thinking I got to be a better leader. Well, again, it opened up. Well, do you want to be a better process leader? Do you want to be a better people leader? Do you want to be a better visionary leader? I'm like, great. I just wanted to be a leader.
Oh, wait a minute. So you didn't really think too deep. You just want to be a better leader, and then they challenge you to rethink that.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of looking into yourself. Again, podcast. And I said, like we said earlier, there's a lot of podcasts you listen to and you have to stop and think. The hiring the CEO coach brought in a lot of inner aspects. Look at myself and how we're going to run this company. And I think that was the first nail in the coffin to start making the machine, the ball start rolling on how we want to go through and do things, and also getting a lot of things off the back burner in motion. So
is there a new Carlo on duty?
I think it's a refocused Carlo. My attitude and my belief system is I am a very focused, analytical type person, but it's a refocused. Once it was refreshing to have written down what that 3 to 5 year goal is. And it's impressive. Once you write it and document it and hang it up on the wall, how fast you make decisions and how fast you start moving.
Think of yourself before the acquisition dialogue was going on. And then that you were romanced, if you will, and maybe that's not the right word, but work with me on that. And I don't know how many months, say that was 2 or 3 or 4 months. So the Carlo before, the Carlo during the acquisition romance, and the Carlo now. Are you more like the guy before, or are you completely different than the guy before?
Different than the guy before. The guy before the acquisition was comfortable. Sales were good. Staff were good. Everything was okay. No, I was making my income. No, I didn't have any really problems in the shop. Different now.
Complacent is the word.
You get comfortable. When you have a profitable business and the people are good in the company, the customers are coming in, you sort of get into a lull mode. And I think I was in that mode. It's also part of boredom. I think as owners of our companies, you sometimes get bored and you go find other things to do.
But the pre-acquisition, Carlo, was there any of your intuition, coming up and slap you on the side back of the head and says, hey, wake up, wake up?
Yep.
And you didn't do anything about it until the acquisition thing fell through, and you say, okay, I went from complacency to being a dreamer and now back to reality.
Yep. And the dreamer aspect of that has just sort of trickled and followed along with it is, why can't we reinvent the wheel again? We have a great business, so I shouldn't complain about it. But seeing what is the potential out there, you need to go back and readjust and make changes to a company. And I think that's what it is. I got a little bit of that dream dust from that acquisition deal and sort of woke me back up again and said, we gotta make some changes here.
Dream dust. I love that word. Dream dust. Very good. It's a great mental picture for me. Did you get your second location yet?
No, it's one of those opportunities or possibilities in that 3 to 5 year plan. A lot of the stuff that we've been doing right now has been internally, with staff, with training, financially. In the last, I'm going to probably say 2 months, we've sort of taken on a sort of a review of the whole company and sort of started putting things in place, like staffing. Staffing's been a big one. So you listen to a lot of podcasts and we talk about business culture and we talk about our people. I've sort of gotten more involved with profiling our employees. I always have profiled them, but I took it more serious in the last couple of months. We exited out anybody who didn't match where I want to see my company go. And that was a clean out.
Tough decisions?
Extremely. And these are good people, loyal people. They've come to work. They never give me any problems. They do their task. It was difficult, but it's necessary.
So you're fixing the culture inside the house.
Yeah, and I think when we talk culture, it's sometimes a vague word. I think I'm building culture. I think I use profiling. I use science and profile the new staff to make sure that they actually, behind the scenes, their attitudes and their behavior actually match each other. I don't want to work hard to make my staff do the right thing. I just want them to naturally do it with each other. And I think the science of profiling helps that. So we invested quite a bit into making sure that everybody's profiled and everybody works together. So our new hires all match.
What are you using?
XT Profiles. One of my former trainers, Dave Shadeen. Dave's wife runs the company. She does a phenomenal job at running the profiles, and they're quite automotive specific. And I believe in them. I've used them for hires, but I believe in what the data gives me.
Is it a online test or is it a interview?
It starts off with an online process with the new hire, and then it comes back with multiple reports, coaching reports. So I use the reports as part of the interview process. I use the reports as part of my coaching and mentoring as we go along. So each quarter I sit down with them and I coach and mentor them, but I use the reports to help guide me with them. So my current staff right now at this moment in time have all been profiled and they all match. It doesn't guarantee me that this new team that I've got built is going to be better or worse than what I've had in the past. I've just tried to use tools that are available to us in the market that we don't necessarily use in the automotive industry, tools that other companies use to build a better company.
You're trying to pull together a team for the future?
Yes. Yeah. Currently right now, so we, our oldest staff member is me. All my techs, most of them in their 20s, early 20s to early 40s. So we, and my front end counter are all in their 40s as well. Again, I don't believe age has any discrepancy or any issue with regards to performance. I believe if you're building a company for the future, that was my belief system, that if I'm going to be in this for the next 3 to 5 years, I need to have that age bracket to take me to that market or further.
So you have a 3 to 5 year plan, which is, if you will, a long and short term, basically. Is your plan to add X amount of stores in that plan? Is it only just 1, 2, or are you looking to build a beautiful little 5 to 10 store network in the next 15? Are you 5 years and out?
Interesting question. I haven't got an answer to it exactly quite yet. I know I want to build this one to its maximum capacity. A second location for myself could be in the works. I have peers in the industry, which we've talked about acquisitions that are happening with private venture companies. And I've said, I think the power of mergers and acquisitions could be in my future. I'd like to see that happen. So I'd like to merge with other independents. So we each take equal shares of our businesses, but I think the power of many will definitely far exceed what the power of one can do. So I think mergers and acquisitions are a future opportunity for me, and I'd like to sort of go down that path.
Interesting. Private venture. Give me the framework of what this would be like. Everybody throws in X amount of money, and then you go out on a buying.
There's many different training companies out there that have groups, but a lot of shop owners are within the same geographical area. And we've been told 101,000 times independents, should work together. Independents also work independently. Then there's also independents who also see the big picture. And I think that's where hopefully I can see opportunity with some of the people that are around me going, if we all operate our businesses the same, a number of business owners in my area, we operate identical the same. Our systems, our processes, our marketing, everything is identical. So if we had a really strong system built, why couldn't we merge our companies together? Instead of trying to grow it from scratch or buy a broke shop, why don't we just merge top level shops together and make it a 5-chain operation or a 6-chain operation that are already producing 20% net profit? All we're going to do is leverage the power of them together.
Well, basically, it's a 5-store partnership.
Yep. It allows you to do things that you could see in the corporate world. Profit sharing. Employees have a share of the company. Now, there's a lot of independents who already do that, but it's thinking outside the box. That's like Honda, Toyota factory style. Employees own a share of the company. I could see that being a future down the road of how you get buy-in, but I don't know if I necessarily want to buy a broke shop and try to build it from the ground up. It costs too much money nowadays to build it from the ground up. I think, why don't we just take the best of the best and put them together if they want to go that way? I think that's where I'm trying to look at as an opportunity. I think me refocusing for the next 3 to 5 years is part of that. And if not, just acquire some of my peers in this business.
I'd love to strategize with you on this concept of, a venture partnership, if you will. And I don't have any answers here, but I have all kinds of things running through my mind right now. Let me talk about a scenario because I think our listener would love to hear what I'm thinking about. You got 5 people, we all join together and we pool our businesses, we become equal partners in a venture. Say it can be worked out that we're all equal. And then another opportunity comes up, Carlo, where someone else would like to join and add a 6th or a 7th member. Would you say, no, we're done, we'll keep our 5, we'll keep it tight, we know what we want to do, and now we'll just go out and acquire? What's your thoughts on that?
I think I'd probably keep ownership very tight and controlled. So, if there's and acquire with 2 or 3 owners taking control of the share of the ownership. I think when you get too many people, you start getting job description problems. The other thing too is each owner is used to a certain income, so that you have to deal with those types of things. It's also behavior. The individuals who I look to do these mergers and acquisitions with, our profiles are very well suited. I'm a very process driven, and the other individuals are very vision driven. Big picture thinkers. So you got to find that right sort of mix, but it would be to acquire a few shops. But I think even bigger picture is once you acquire the shops, now you're ready for an acquisition from a private venture company. That's the big picture.
You just said a mouthful there, job descriptions, and I always call that role. If everyone knew their role, you'll never have a problem with a partnership. If they know their role, they stick to their role. Yet, everybody would make their decisions equally, if you will. 3 people would have 3 votes in a decision in the company, but once you're done with that, and it's almost like this: the day that, first of all, if it's say there's 3 people in a partnership and we're making a really big decision and there's a vote, and 2 vote yes and 1 votes no, you leave the room and that third person who voted no has to be has to accept what the vote was and act as if they voted yes. That's tough.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of great shops that listen to this, and some of them believe in acquisition and they want to control it. And I think there's a other mindset that of, get great shop owners together. If they all want to leave the industry, put them together.
This is a profound thought, and here's why. I remember interviewing Kevin Eckler, and he said, I really struggled for 10 years, and then, he got remarried. His wife ended up getting to run the shop. And I says, are you doing what you love to do? And he goes, yes, I'm still in the bays. He says, and my biggest problem was that's where I started. I was uncomfortable on the counter and in the back office, and now I got it worked out so that I can keep my hands in it. And there are some owners that if you said, hey, what do you love to do? Market, sell? Are you a people person? Do you love the tech? And they'll raise their hand and says, I would give anything, if I had an equity interest in something and all I could do every day was play on the tech side or, be in the bays, maybe not work on cars every day, but if you will, workflow in shop management. And I think that may be the key to the future. I think what you just came up with is what's your strength? What do you love to do? What role do you want to have? Maybe we can work something out.
A lot of shop owners think that, hey, no, the succession of my business is I'm going to sell. Well, maybe we don't want to sell. Maybe we'll take you over and you'll be another niche in the ownership puzzle of it. And we sort of we think like a corporation. We have a CEO, we have a vice president, a president. Each one gets their role and obligation. We operate like a corporation, and that's how you sort of leverage things out there. I think it's just a different way of sort of doing it. It's when independents stop thinking independent. It was a big thing when the private venture company that I was dealing with, they had the right word, and it's been seen everywhere. Disruption. They opened my eyes to this industry. It's going to be disrupted. They're absolutely right.
There's more disruption going on than we know about today, especially in the tech side. We haven't seen, every quarter, every 2 or 3 months, there's going to be a major disruptor going on with, it reminds me of people saying, listen, you need to sell your house, but you need to contact my company because I'm going to tell you who the best realtors in your community are. How did I ever exist for the last 100 years selling houses before I had to find out who was the better realtor? Now, that's a disruptor coming in. So the realtor who wants to be on their site's probably got to pay something to be included or to have a review. And so the way business is being done today, to your point, will be done completely different next year and the year after.
When we talked earlier about you make fundamental changes for the shifts that are occurring in the market environment. When Airbnb and Uber got introduced to the market, the taxi cab industry said this will never fly. Well, I'd hate to beg and differ from that, but it's changed the industry. And Airbnb has changed how the hotel industry is working. And the Home Depots have changed the home hardware business from the mom and pops. I haven't seen a major disruptor in the automotive industry, but it's coming.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Okay, with all that on the back of your mind, probably on your front burner, and it sounds exciting. I'm happy for you. What's going on in 2019? I mean, what's on the first quarter agenda that's going to make Carlo Sabucco go to the next level?
I think it was Scott Waddle had made a comment on one of your podcasts, and I just took it verbatim. He took all his staff and went to training. So that's exactly what we sort of did. We're going to shut this place down and take the entire company over to Vision. And hopefully that'll be a kickstart to 2019. So we're bringing all the key personnel, we're flying them all down. And I think that'll be a eye-opening experience for culture that I'm willing to invest in them. And also my people, being together. I think that's part of a social, call it my emotional intelligence leadership. I think that's also part of the social. So that'll be that'll be 2019 sort of moving forward as part of it. And most of our new staff will be all onboarded by the beginning of January. So it'll be interesting to see how the new people sort of get put in place.
You bring up such a great point about, taking the entire shop division and closing up. So many shop owners don't want to consider daytime training. They don't want to consider an event like Vision. How were you able to, justify this? Or the next part of this is, what do you tell other shop owners, get out of your own way and do this?
I was watching a Simon Sinek YouTube video last night And he talks about, you try to help others, so I've always heard about, you got to help others in the industry and help other shop owners. And I think, I tell others, you've got to look to the future. I have my personal beliefs. I cannot speak for anybody else. I have my personal beliefs, what's happening within the trade and where I see it going. But you just got to find the funds and the budgets and you do it. I also believe in not helping shop owners because I'm tired of helping people and they don't make change. So I'd ostracize them and leave them out there. Let them get run over is my personal belief. When they realize that they need to make a change, they'll join and do what they need to do. So when I talk to shops and say, you need to go to training, you need to do this, and they say, maybe when, I don't help you anymore. Fend for yourself. Eventually they get run over and they come back and go, you're right. I need to go to training. I need to do this. I need to do that. I think that's part of what needs to happen within the business. But I think most shop owners understand that training needs to happen.
Carlo, are the shops that keep saying no to your ideas or your offers, are they hurting our industry?
I think they don't realize it. I think they work hard. My dad was a hard worker. He built a great business, but he was a hard worker. And I think there's lots of shop owners, and there's some just geographically right next door to me. They work so hard to take care of the customer, but no training, no software, not tools, circumvent all the systems to figure out how to fix a vehicle. I think they genuinely want to do it, but they just don't have the people around them to make it happen. And they got blinders on, and sometimes you need to let them get hurt. It's like a little kid. You need to let him put his hand on the stove to burn his hand first.
Here's a thought that I had that I actually shared in one of the interviews at Apex. That shop that you just described can't pay the parts bill, doesn't have any money in the bank, on the verge of bankruptcy, is living paycheck to paycheck, hasn't taken a paycheck, say, in a month in order to keep the business floating. And they're just too darn embarrassed to expose the fact that they are failing. And so any piece of advice is tossed off because they would be afraid to expose where they are. And agree or disagree, my next thought and question to you is it worth just picking up the phone and says, let's go have coffee?
Yep. There's a lot of times that happens. A lot of times that you personally have to expose yourself. As a successful shop owner, you need to tell people your failures. I have no problem telling people I've hit rock bottom some days in this business. My peers know some pretty bad secrets about me operating my company. You got to open up and say it. And I think when it comes to some other shop owners, they've got to really, truly put their ego aside and ask for help. If not, again, Greenwood says it is a CEO mindset. A CEO does what's necessary. We have to put a business hat on too. And if that embarrassed shop owner refuses to ask, then he's set his own path.
Let's go back to my vision question. So you're going to take your team, you're going to close, and you're going to schedule around that. I mean, you probably realize that the revenue that you would have lost by being closed is going to come back twofold because of all the new education.
That's exactly it. Hopefully Scott's right, because I'm listening to Scott.
Well, no, Scott is absolutely right. In fact, there isn't a shop owner that, I've interviewed or have met at Vision that has ever said that they didn't get their money's worth and it was the best thing that they ever did. And we will do this now every year once it happens.
I think it's a really good kickstart to the year. I've tried to get some of the shop owners who are in my group to at least go down and see what Vision's about. I don't believe in night training. I don't believe in sending staff to training and not paying them. There's a lot of things that have changed this year. I think it's the value of a human and not just a mule. And I think that's a big eye-opening experience.
And that was a big change this year for you.
Yeah, it's again, I talk with many in the industry how we pay employees, and I don't pay flat rate or performance base. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that system. Many do, and I only speak from my own experience. I don't see a long future in that method. But you take care of the people and don't treat them like mules. You'll get your money tenfold. So by shutting down the company and losing a couple of days of sales, great Vision's in one of my slower seasons, which works out perfect. But I'm hoping it's not only the training. I think it's the social aspect of having a drink after class and everybody talking about the business.
The networking piece is priceless.
This year was tough with going through and trying to hire as many people as we did. I got an eye-opening experience on the terminology ghosting, people not showing up. It caused me to change my interview process, how we talk, how we act. The whole thing got changed this year because of that. And I think as an owner, it's just an eye-opening experience to what people are looking for versus what we expect.
So are you using your profiling to hire?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you're probably going to minimize ghosting because you're going to pick a better candidate.
Yeah. It's usually with the younger ones. So we started off with the traditional interview process with sort of my shop assistant, if you want to call it that. And he was a millennial generation that we were looking at, but we'd make the job, have their locker ready, and they wouldn't show up. And it just took me a few times over and over again to finally nail it down. Okay, what are they after? What are they looking for? It just makes a change. It makes a difference.
For anyone who doesn't know what ghosting is, I'm not sure. Did we explain it just a minute ago? It's just when you hire somebody and they don't show up.
Yep. Pretty common thing nowadays.
Yeah, wow. I mean, listen, I've been around the horn just a few years, and I never knew it was called ghosting. But boy, 20, 30 years ago it happened, and you really start to question your own capabilities, your own, your interviewing skills. Did I sell this right? Did I pick the right person? It ends up becoming almost a lot of pressure on you. You talk about losing confidence and finding a new low. What did I do wrong?
Yeah, and there's a lot of that. Again, depending on the age of the owner. My dad would say, "Hey, I'd just go out there and say I need a tech," and there'd be 3 or 4 of them. I'm blessed at this stage that we've spent a lot of time this year in the interview/hiring practice that we actually now finally have techs wanting and waiting to come on board. It's taken years, but they talk about tech shortages, and I believe there's tech shortages. But I've heard from enough people on your podcast that if you build your business the right way and provide a big enough vision, they'll be waiting. And the technician that we're onboarding next week, he's been waiting 6 months to get a spot in here.
Okay, you're the proof in the pudding. You can build a bench, and you can have people out there waiting to find their dream job.
Yeah, and if you've profiled them ahead of time, you already know what you want to say yes or no when the opportunity presents itself.
Okay, so this guy who's coming to work for you, was it someone you knew, someone you interviewed a long time ago, someone whose resume was in the pile, and give me an idea how to build your bench. How have you built your bench?
6 degrees of separation, Facebook. A friend of a friend of a friend, and he said he's a tech, and I said, sure, let's talk to him. And I said, I'm not hiring, but, we need to know a little bit about you. We did the interview process face-to-face, showed him the shop, sold him the dream, and said, when the opportunity presents itself, when I call, you're going to have 2 weeks to make that move. And that's exactly what happened. We made the call. He says, do I hand my notice in today? I said, yes, you do. He says, I'm done. And we already knew what we were sort of getting ahead of time. No, he's not a speed demon. He's a steady Eddie, but he matches the behavior that I want in the shop to a T perfectly. So I'll take steady Eddie and cool. Great behavior.
Hey, Carlo, thanks for your very honest and candid discussion here with me today.
Carmen, it's always a pleasure. Like I said, your podcasts are reasons why shops need to transform, or shops need to listen, not just hear you, but listen to you.
Thank you. I mean, you're another great example of someone who's coming on the show that is willing to have the conversation about, your world and your take. And we're independents. So there's only, 250,000 different ideas and ways to do things. And yet it's a great to be independent, and it's a curse to be independent. And I think the podcast does help bridge that idea stream. And you say, well, I heard this 10 times in the last 6 months from people on the show. And, there's a thread there. There's some commonality, and that seems to be working. And thrilled that that you're in this transformational mode, that you've re-engineered not only the business, but yourself, because of the circumstances that you shared with us in the beginning. So this is a great one. Thank you so much. Would you come back and, continue to tell us, what 2018, come back in 2019 and say, oh, let me give you an update?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm always listening. You're always my homework every night.
Well, you've got that hour commute.
Yes, I do.
And that's a great way. Oh, by the way, that's a great way to come down from a bad day, right? Or come up from a bad day.
5 days a week, you're my listen on the ride home. So it gives me time to think about it for the next day and sort of say, which way do we sort of going. So it's definitely a positive influence.
Thanks so much, man.
Pleasure.
Hey, thank you, Carlo Sabucco, for sharing your very personal story and for being an example of what resiliency in our industry gets you. Your commitment to improving yourself through training is a great example to our service professionals who want to up the ante. This episode's key talking points can be found at remarkableresults.biz/E388. Hey, thank you for finding the time to listen and learn with the best context in the aftermarket. Real-time stories equate to real-time emotions. Real-time questions equate to real-time answers. No filters here on Remarkable Results Radio.
Thanks for being on board to listen and learn from the premier automotive aftermarket podcast. Until next time.